picture. I'm counting on 8.
And they change after every shot. 1,
5, 4, 3, 2.
You've seen her before, and she's back again.
We're kind of like the orchestra, you know, and then the sort of lead violinist is out on the field of play, and you know we've got a big conductor in front of us that's directing the whole thing, and we just fit into his or her pattern.
We're not a well-known sport compared to the bigger sports that we all know and love, so we have to be creative. But with broadcasting, yeah, the main aim is to show the difficulty of our sport, to show the grace of our sport and the beauty of our sport.
To produce a broadcast like this takes a lot of work, a lot of hours. There's a lot of pre-production that goes into this that you probably don't always take into account.
You know, no different to watching a drama on TV or something like that. Sport is very much the same. Like you want a thriller. You want something that people can say, "Oh wow, I didn't expect that." When you're directing, you're focusing mainly on the shots that your camera ops are giving you and trying to focus on what's coming next, because it always needs to be kept interesting. You can't keep it on the same shot for, you know, 30 seconds or even 20 seconds for that matter.
So there's a lot of tension and pressure that I would say the online audience doesn't get, but obviously with TV, with technology, we're trying to explain more what's happening on the field of play so the audience at home gets an idea.
It's incredibly far from the shooting line to the target, and they're hitting something the size of an orange time and time again, and I think that's the hardest thing to see, and I think that's part of my job to try and explain what's going on. Do you know that the arc of the arrow is like 10.5 meters? It goes up and down 10.5 meters on the way at 50 meters or 70 meters, depending on the discipline, to the target. And that's an incredible distance, given the fact they're hitting something this size time and time again.
With many things in mind, I would say. Broadcast is probably the ultimate because we want to get great images. We want to showcase our sport. We want to show the venue. We want to be unique. So when people see archery, they're like, oh, this is new.
So what do we want to see when we come into a broadcast? What do we want to see halfway through when someone wins an end or whatever? You know, we want to see X, Y, or Z, and then we decide from there.
When you win a match, for example, you see a variety of emotions, and that's what we want to capture, and it's important for us to have various different angles.
The first 4 are the PTZ cameras, so you got 2 that are facing their archers, Archer 1 and Archer 2, so it gives kind of a low shot. So if it was especially really good in Shanghai because you had buildings all the way around, so you got a shot up, so you can see right up, you can see the face and you can see all the tall buildings around you, which is pretty cool. You've also got another 2 on the targets themselves. So that's your main target shot. So as soon as the arrow is released from whatever camera, you go to that one, you go to the target camera. Camera 5 is more kind of off to the side, and that gets you your functional shots. So in archery, if an archer pulls an arrow out of his quiver before walking over the line, then it's a foul. So he needs to go back and pull the arrow out and then kind of go over the line. So it's that kind of thing with foot faults and things like that camera can get, because it can get a wider shot on the 2 of them. And then we've got camera 6, which is your kind of money shot camera, which is right down as close as possible whilst being safe outside the line of the arrow, but you got right down, you know, the eyesight of the archer, so that it can really, you know, look at it, and that's what you really get good facial expressions and things like that from that camera. And then in Antalya we had the super slow motion camera on the back on a platform, which was on wheels and it went from side to side. A lot of the archers have kind of traits, so they, you know, twiddle their thumb or something like that, or get a really good flight of the arrow. Camera 8 is down near the target, so that's a handheld camera. It's still wide, but it's handheld, and that can go in when they're scoring the measures, and we can also hear exactly what the official is saying down that end. So that's a visual representation of the story. And then you've got camera 9, which is the jib. I think that really adds a lot to the coverage. It brings it from kind of a bare basic kind of static camera coverage to something that gives you a bit of movement. It really shows off the venue, and that's exactly what people want to see. They want to see a nice venue, they want to see a really competitive competition that they can get into.
Because as soon as you see the athlete shoot, suddenly there's a big target and then boom, and then it's like, well, that looks easy. So we always rely on our commentators and the images to show how far the arrow flies and how the arrow's flying. They think it's straight, but it's actually flying like a fish. So we use slow motion cameras to show all the components of the bow and the arrow, of how much movement there is.
It's important for us if we are telling the story, for example, if we go to our Falco Eye graphics and we want to see how close the grippings were, or after the shots if we go to the replays and we want to see emotions, and it's important for us that the viewer can understand the story we're telling and you know, become really engaged in the product.
Rio was the first games that we had used the laser scoring technology. So as soon as the arrow hits the target, the two lasers work on an X and Y axis, and then it establishes where the arrow's landed, and it gives an arrow value, and then it distributes it to our scoring database. It's given us great statistics on group sizes. It's given us a good idea of what's happening in the wind conditions as well.
So stats on athletes is crucial. You know, knowledge and information is key to getting this job right.
Kareem is our commentator for the archery. He's really good at what he does. A lot of it is actually done behind the scenes for him. A lot of it's the research.
So having the World Archery statistics on the site, on their website, is fantastic. That's an ongoing resource. But at venue, as soon as I arrive, the stats are already coming out. We usually arrive during the competition, so the qualification is ongoing at the time that I arrive.
We have two commentators. We have a sport-specific commentator, so it would typically be an archer or a coach that gives that in-depth knowledge that a standard commentator wouldn't have. And then we have a standard commentator that brings in the energy, is able to explain.
And my job here is to set the scene, to explain to the viewer what they're about to see and what the implications are of what's going to happen next. But of course, working with the expert, they're there to fill in the gaps. I can give you numbers, but the expert's there to tell you what those numbers actually mean.
The thing that you don't see is that there's a big office full of people trying to organise all this. You know,
there's a huge team of people, and we're all linked together during events. So I can hear the field of play operator, the director who's actually bringing the athletes on. I can actually hear what they're saying, so I know when the athletes are coming out. And it's all controlled an outside broadcast van. So there's a big truck sitting out in the back here with 20 people sitting in it, all got their jobs when the graphics are coming up, and all of this is being communicated to me by something called Talkback.
At France, despite that long hold from Sophie Daubon, will lead after the second end. By how many points?
Yeah, we're both Russian. One is France. Yeah, that's France. One. Back in 7. 1, 2, 6.
There will be 2 as the final arrow comes in on a 9.
Traffic off, please. Traffic off.
And that was a very interesting end. And,
It's
the French
alien
and the Russians
to
both.
have someone talking in your ear while you're talking live on air. That's the steepest part of the learning curve for me being a commentator is having that. But practice makes perfect. Same as sport.
Well, as World Archery, we are definitely passionate. We're looking for host organisations that think, well, maybe this sport's for us. I want to get into some great locations. I would love to get into South Africa or Australia, Moscow Red Square. I would like to shoot over the reflective pool in Washington, DC. We're a great sport. I mean, it's for everybody, both little kids to family. It's got a good platform for both men and women and disability sports. So, but through our social media, we're able to discover what it is that people want. So we're looking towards that feedback to come back, so then we can tailor make our events and obviously the productions that we're doing.
I think the challenge is to do it in a captivating way. I mean, it's not like football where you can follow a ball back and forth. You've got that 2-camera cut, which is vitally important for to actually see what's happening. Watching a couple of people shoot means absolutely nothing unless you get the context of it.
If you're reading a novel or watching a film and you just watch the last 10 seconds, the last 3 minutes of the film, it might be the most exciting part of the film in terms of the action, but you have no idea what's gone on before to get to that point.
If you really want to go for it and sell it, you need these extra cameras, you need these extra little people on site to be able to make these small things happen. you know, it's quite easy to kind of forget about certain areas like audio or graphics or something like that and just say, oh, it'll be fine. But people don't realize that that tells the story. You know, the audio tells the story, the graphics tell the story, and you know, good camera ops tell the story of the coverage. You know, and that's what it's all about.
To me, it's important that the audience sees and feels as much as you would if you were watching it live in the venue. And to us, it's important if you can get character from the athletes, if you can get emotion from the athletes. And for us, it's just to more than just to show the sport, it's important to try and tell a story within that.
Rather than just being image focused, we're also trying content. So our athletes, our events, there's a lot of storylines in there. A lot of our athletes have longevity, so they've been around for, let's say, 6 Olympics or 3 World Championships, or they're on a comeback. And these things need to be brought out. It's not just images. So with the producer, with the director, we're trying to establish, well, what is it we want to achieve? Why are we doing something? Rather than just show great images.